Should I file for divorce? I need help. My wife and I have been married for 10 years with 2 kids, 5 and 7. We have had our fair share of issues, and I ignored many red flags to continue our marriage because I was attracted to her physically. We are both in education, so we have the same vacation time, and we both wanted kids. However, I think I've reached the point where I'm no longer in love with her because I just don't think she's a good person. She's a great mother, but almost to a fault where she puts the kids ahead of anything. Here's an example that requires a little backstory. Her family is local and my family is not. I had a second cousin that was getting married locally, and my whole family was going to be in town for the wedding. I asked my mother-in-law to watch the girls for us so we could go, and my wife refused to do so. I decided to go by myself and spend the night at the hotel because I don't get to see my family much, and she flipped out on me for being selfish and not staying home with the kids. My wife is also very cheap. She gets mad at me anytime I spend money on anything for me. Golf, beer, clothes, etc. That's not an essential purchase. Her and I make somewhat equal pay, although I do some tutoring on the side so I make slightly more. According to her, the tutoring money is ours, not mine though, because it takes away from family time for me to tutor. Also, I cook and do the dishes every night, and it's starting to wear on me. I asked her if we could start ordering out now that we got our stimulus, and she said she'd prefer to keep cooking from home. I said that's because I do it, and she just returns with, "You're fine." My wife has OCD to the point that we cannot go in certain rooms in the house after she goes in the room because the room cannot be disturbed from perfect status. On school days my kids eat breakfast on the floor because my wife doesn't want a mess at the table before she leaves. I leave earlier because I work farther away. My wife uses people. My parents haven't seen us since July, and they want to come visit for my oldest's birthday in April now that we are all vaccinated. My wife decided to invite them on her own, but not until June when we need their help watching the kids as school wraps up for them before us. She also wants them to book a hotel because she doesn't like having company stay at the house. This was a thing before COVID. To be frank, I am fed up, and I am just looking for the right time to tell her how I feel. Essentially, I am planning on asking for counseling before asking for divorce, but I am trying to figure out the best time to bring this up, because we have a lot of family birthdays coming up in the next month, and a family trip planned for the end of June. I was debating waiting until that's all done, but I am struggling to keep my sanity here. Maybe I'm just venting, but if anyone has some wisdom it would be appreciated. I'm going to go with yep, probably for the best. Because I don't think your wife will be open to working on herself the marriage. She sound very set in her ways. All of the things you mention can be worked on, if she truly wanted to change, for the better, but reading that she refused to visit with your family at a wedding and then gave you a hard time when you chose to go just made me feel sad for you. Edit. Making the kids eat on the floor cause she doesn't want the table a mess blows my mind. You should talk to a lawyer before you say anything to her. I mean this in the kindest way possible, but it doesn't sound like you guys got married for the right reasons or big things outside of kids were discussed. It's very apparent you have different values. You may be able to work through them, but if not, these are fundamental core differences you have. While I'm not going to comment on your relationship stuff, I have OCD, different ways, and it appears much more under control than your wife. But I'm thinking a vast majority is tying into her OCD and she needs help with it. Generally with OCD, while you as her partner knows some of the obsessions and rituals, you do not know all, and to me it sounds like a lot of these controlling behaviors may be the anchors to anxiety and obsessions. There will always be something coming up to make you want to push it back to another time, so there is no best time to break up with her, but your kids need a primary residence where they don't have to eat on the floor. Your wife needs to start working on her OCD. 5 and 7 yo kids shouldn't carry the burden of managing their caretaker's mental well-being. Based off of what you wrote, your wife sounds pretty horrible. However, it seems like you knew you were incompatible but didn't care because she was physically attractive. Also, I'm a bit skeptical that you're as perfect as you make yourself sound, considering there are 2 sides to every story. Pass on the counseling and just get an attorney. There's no way I'd tolerate this a second longer. She sounds miserable to be around. You. Seems like there have been communication issues for some time now, if not your entire relationship. Doesn't seem like either of you are on the same page, much less even the same book. I don't think your wife is right here, but from your post it seems like you have issues with confrontation and may not be communicating your feelings and needs as well as you could be, but that may be because she is so dismissive and unwilling to work on any problems. I'm not sure what the solution is, but you all deserve some happiness, and if it isn't with each other, it's best to go you separate ways for yourselves and for your children. If the kids ever let it slip at school that they have to eat breakfast on the floor, you'll have CPS to add to the mix of things you are dealing with. She needs help, lots of it, and your kids need you. She's a tyrant. You must establish boundaries and be respected, or resentment will ensue. Resentment builds slowly over time. But then it chokes you. There's no good time to divorce. It sucks. And it will be devastating to the kids. That's just the way it is. All you can do is be the best divorced parent you can be. I don't really have an opinion on the divorce options because from what you have written there doesn't appear to be open communication about the issues, but you have to do something. As a child who had a parent that always had to have things done a specific way, and all that, it screwed me up. Address your issues cause your kids are going to have lifelong issues from what your wife is doing. Tell her how you feel would be a good start. Please don't say she is OCD unless she's actually been diagnosed with it. Everything you mentioned can be worked through. If you don't want to, then yeah, you can get divorced if you want. I've seen this cook and dishes thing on here a few times now. What's with it? I thought that there was a universal rule of civilized life that the cook does not do the dishes. You're fine is the gospel of gaslighters. Edited to fix quotations. If you're going to file for divorce, probably a good idea to stop having sex with her? I mean, your other post talks about taking advantage of her sex drive now that she's watching some show. Okay, cool, but I hope you're not actively having sex with her and planning on divorcing her. That sucks. Settle for divorce, bud. You're at your wit's end. Counseling takes years and nothing about it is quick. You have realized you don't love her now, so you are better off getting help from a lawyer and filing for divorce. That is better than suffering for longer and having your mental health affected even more than it probably is. Maybe she is not a bad person, just has some controlling issues. Her mind cannot rest if things are not in a certain order. The stress of company is too much to handle. I too suffer from these anxieties. Maybe you could read up on the issue to better understand and talk to her about it. I get the impression that you kind of want the divorce over working on the marriage. Maybe find out why your wife does what she does. Does she not go out at all, and that's why when you do she makes you feel quilty? You seem to have a communication breakdown and different wants in life, so maybe talk and figure out a common ground. Along with your many issues here, I'd bet a few quid that you as a family have some money issues you don't know about. I think you need to look into that possibly before filing. You have already made up your mind about the divorce, so do it. Why do you need internet strangers to agree with you about it? I feel like these issues could be worked out with some therapy, and through reading your post I don't see where you have made an effort to fix it or communicate with her. You might want to keep in mind that marrying someone because your penis likes her may not be the wisest way to choose a partner. You had me at, the kids eat on the floor. That's despicable. Disgusting. Ridiculous. If she is not willing to budge of her side or compromise with you, there is probably little hope of anything changing. Do not wait to address some of these behaviors. This is damaging to your children. They are not worth starting their day eating at the table because they might get crumbs on it. She clearly needs help with the OCD. You all live in the house, not just her. Sounds like you are intimidated by her. You need to call out these things as they happen. Stand up for yourself, your kids and your family. All these things can be worked on. You too should seek counseling before a divorce. Please do something for your kids. Being made to eat on the floor and not being allowed in certain rooms can't be good for them. Regardless of whether or not you choose to divorce her, please try to get her to see a therapist or a psychiatrist for her OCD. I also have OCD and it helped me so much. Why are your kids eating on the floor? You need to deal with this and tell her that she can't do that. Talk with her. What would happen if your kids ate at the table anyway? Would she scream at them? Hit them? Either way, dude, your wife is fucked up and you gotta leave. 1. Talk to a lawyer. 2. If suggesting a counselor makes you feel better, go for it. People like her tend not to think their behavior is the issue and you are the problem. 3. There is never a right time to get a divorce. No way I would go on vacation with someone I want a divorce from. Not even for the kids' sake. How miserable. 4. She does not really sound like a great mother. No telling how much anxiety she is causing your kids with her OCD. 5. Go to see a lawyer. It might be for the best. At least maybe separate for the moment. But she sounds like she needs some professional help with her OCD as well. If it's got control of her like this. To the point it's driving you both apart. And it's taking a toll on herself and her family. Think for yourself. Don't immediately take what we're saying as the right thing to do, because it might end up a huge mistake. Sounds like you've never liked her. Just divorce her and be done with it. You need a break from her. Have you tried counseling? Children need to see healthy relationships between their parents. The best time to bring it up is right now. Don't wait. You should sit down and speak with her when the kids are in bed and there are no distractions. Tell her how this is affecting you and that the only option you see for making this work is counseling for both of you. If she is open to counseling and getting help for her OCD, give yourself some time. If she shuts you down immediately and refuses to go, reach out to a divorce lawyer and find out what your options are. Forget about the vacations and the birthdays. In the grand scheme of things, they are unimportant at this point. While your wife may suffer from OCD, and she can't help that, she can make a choice to go to therapy and try to make things better. Definitely talk to her about going to counseling ASAP. As a couple or individual, have you expressed to her how all of these actions make you feel? Do not delay, because there will always be something that will come up that can be used as an excuse to not go to counseling. Do it now before any more resentment builds up. If your wife does have OCD, then she could do other things to help reduce the anxiety she feels. But if her actions are having a detrimental effect on you, then you cannot ignore it. She needs to be at least in behavioral therapy because her actions will begin to affect your children even more. Deal with it now. Good luck. Your wife sounds like she may have autism. I don't mean that as an insult. I'm saying based off of her attitude, she seems very set in her ways and doesn't like change. Ergo why you seem to be stuck in the same place and she argues anytime you want to make a change. I'd maybe consider getting her checked on top of counseling. She's not a good mother. Absolutely talk to an experienced attorney before talking to your spouse. I say this from experience, in case the conversation goes badly. I think yes. My boyfriend and I think equally of our family. Kids come first, but they should also spend some time with their grandma, grandpa or different members of the family. If she thinks her family side is more important than yours, then that's just sick. Reading this makes me feel like she knows she is breaking the contact to your family to make you bound to her, as she is kinda your only close contact. You're not in a marriage, more like a dictatorship. You should get started now. There will never be a completely free calendar. I know that if someone wanted to leave me, I wouldn't want them to wait until after family events. That's not a favor, it's future faking. Be honest and move forward. I mean, was she not like this before you married her? Before you had kids? This sounds like her personality. Do you just not like her? Scrap all the judgment bits. Do you like her? There's a case to be made for staying together for the kids and just being cool with each other. Emo, it doesn't sound like you have an amicable split on your hands if you part ways, and that's traumatic for children. How does she feel about you? Does she like you? It kinda doesn't sound like it. Sorry to hear about this. There's never a good time to end things. In my opinion, rip the band-aid off. Your wife needs treatment for her OCD. She needs help, but that's not going to help her personality. You've got my support. Follow your gut. There will never be a perfect time. It is best to address these issues as soon as you can. Make sure you separate your finances, and prepare everything in advance before you give her the divorce papers. By the way she sounds, I promise she will lock you out of everything. She sounds extremely controlling, so make sure you protect yourself. I'd suggest writing some of this down, maybe journaling? Lots of feelings involved here. Sometimes it's hard conveying them understandably in words until you've thought it out first. As well as laying what you plan to do and contingencies for all the what-ifs. Remember, you and your wife are not the only ones involved here. We have had our fair share of issues, and I ignored many red flags to continue our marriage because I was attracted to her physically. Well, that was your first mistake. Relationships doesn't last very long only with sexual attraction. Poor kids, man. They weren't born out of love and don't see any love between their parents. That can damage them in their future behavior. Just get a divorce and let it be over with, and you both can find a partner who you actually love and not just lusting over. Why do people get married? Sounds like a self-imposed prison.